Well, hello friend, Coach Bob with you today, and today we are on board the beautiful 2024 CanAm Sea to Sky Edition. Man, this thing is awesome, I'll tell you that. I want to say thank you to BRP for letting me drive this thing for an extended period of time and run it through its paces and share with you all of my findings. So with that out of the way, I want you to do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, all that business. But today we are going to be talking about something that I've been asked many times, and it is the Spyder a good commuter? So we're going to have an in-depth discussion on that today. We'll give you some reasons why it is, and maybe a few why it isn't. But we're going to go in-depth into this thing, so I want you to do me a favor, go get you a cup of coffee, all that jazz, sit down and enjoy your time this morning. Alright, so let's talk about what I would consider a commute. A daily commute is you driving to and from work every day. That means in the rain, in the sun, in the heat, in the cold. Now understand that there are mitigating forces when you start looking at the deep frozen tundra of the North United States of America, Canada, you know, those places where it is like, you know, snow covered and you don't want to be in anything but a car or a truck. Preferably a four-wheel drive. So understand that I'm not really referring to that. I'm referring to, you know, what I would say the 25 degree or even the 20 degree weather, and you're getting down to that cold weather where, you know, is it tolerable and is it worth it? And is it a functional possibility? So let's talk about that. So first off, let's address inclement weather, because that's always the very, very first thing. When I say inclement weather, I'm talking about rain, I'm talking about mist, fog, that sort of stuff. Am I talking about snow? Well, I really don't have any expertise in snow, so I can't really say that. However, I do see Spyder riders on the internet going for rides in the snow. And we were supposed to have a little bit of snow a few weeks ago, and I wanted to go for a ride in it, but it didn't happen. So, but how is the Spyder in the rain on a commute, especially if you are like I am, where you live out of the town by probably 10 minutes, and then you have to get into town, and then once you get into town, you've got to navigate traffic and all of that sort of thing. Well, obviously you're going to need some good rain gear. Now I'm using the CanAm rain gear. By the way, I bought it. It works great. I love it. It's wonderful. Harley makes good rain gear. Don't go out. I mean, I've done the Columbia stuff and it works fine, but I think a more heavy-duty motorcycle rain gear, certainly for the wintertime, is going to be a twofold blessing for you. One, it's going to keep you dry. The other thing is going to keep you a little more warm. It's a little thicker material, and so it just does a better job. But the Spyder itself, how does it handle in the rain? Well, you know, we have a lot of rain here in Tallahassee, and so I'm used to riding where there's water on the road or sometimes actually over the road, and it does well. Can you get it to hydroplane? You can get it to hydroplane, but primarily if you're going high speeds. Now, I've ridden on the interstate, you know, 85 miles an hour in pouring down rain, and I didn't have a problem with it. But can I get it to hydroplane? I can get my truck to hydroplane. I can get, you know, my Acura to hydroplane, Coach Vic's van, you know, you can get anything to hydroplane. But the Spyder is plenty stable in the rain. It's plenty stable on wet roads. The rain thing, as far as the handling of the machine, is spot on. Now, what hits you, you've got a nice wide windshield on the Spyder, and so when you're moving, you really don't get wet. I mean, you're going to get more wet on the back of your neck if you don't have a hood up on your rain gear, because it's going to be more that vacuum air, I call it, where it kind of sucks in. It creates a vacuum around you. But when you're moving, you're really not getting wet. Even your knees aren't getting wet. Everything's behind something. So the Spyder does very, very well in the rain. Now, when you sit at a red light, obviously you're going to get wet like you're standing out in the rain, because that's just the very nature of it, because you are literally standing out in the rain. But as far as rain is concerned, is the Spyder a viable option to ride in the rain, to go to work every day? I would say if you have rain gear, then it is definitely a viable option for you. Now, this is a negative of the Spyder as far as commuting. It will not change the frequency at which you sit at red lights. You know, I tell you, that's the one thing that I hate about commuting, generally speaking. I get so sick of sitting at red lights, and they never are timed, are they? All right, enough of my belly aching about red lights. All right, so let's talk about number 2, and that's the cold. You know, cold is something that is quite subjective. I mean, Coach Vic, to her, cold is 40s, and to me, cold, it really isn't bad till you get down in the 20s. And I ride all year round. If it's a 15-degree day, 10-degree day, and we have those, they're on occasion, not often, but we have them once or twice a year. And if I'm scheduled to ride that day, if I'm planning on going out on a ride, I get on the Spyder and I go. The Spyder does exceptionally well. The Sythe Sky in particular does exceptionally well in the cold. The heated grips right now, I'm going to tell you, I've been turning them up and down. As I turn them down, you can see I'm on the number 3 of 5 as far as the heat, and my hands are toasty. Now, it's not really cold. I mean, it's 50s right now, something like that, but it's one of those kind of wet days, super windy, gray, been mist and rain all day, that kind of thing. But the cold, man, the heated grips do great. Now, I have other motorcycles with heated grips on them, and they pale in comparison to the performance of the grips on the CanAm Spyder. My Triumph Tiger, which is a super fine motorcycle, you could tell they're on, but they will never put you in a level of discomfort. The Spyder, if you turn the heat up too high, I mean, it can actually be a little uncomfortable. You'll turn it down. It's like, whoa, that's a little too warm for my liking. So heated grips on this thing are top notch. Heated seats, another thing on the Spyder. The Sythe Sky heated seats are absolutely beyond compare. Again, I've got a Triumph Tiger. I've ridden the BMW GS's. The heated seats on those work. You feel it, but not like the heated seats on this. These feel like the heated seats of a premium automobile. You know, where you get in and you're like, man, I'm sitting on a heating pad. That's how this feels, and it does a very, very good job, even in really, really cold weather. So the gear on here makes it very, very tolerable to ride in cold weather. The big thing is knees and elbows and your chest, which most of that is covered by your windshield and your bodywork. So as far as cold is concerned, you can plan on, unless you're in the really snowy Great White North, the frozen tundra, I will call it, you can ride the Spyder in the cold air. It is not a problem at all. In fact, it really excels all others in that arena as far as I'm concerned. All right, number three. You know, when you commute, you have to carry your stuff. So you have to carry, you know, your lunch. You have to carry maybe a briefcase. I'm showing my age, aren't I? You'll carry a laptop, not a briefcase anymore. Actually, I carry my laptop in kind of an attaché case, and it works very, very well. However, I can take that briefcase and I can put it in the trunk of this thing or in the back bag, and there's plenty of room for it. And it does very, very well. There's plenty of room for my rain gear, a cover for the Spyder, anything that I want, that I need for work that day, I can take. I've actually been known, you know, not just commuting to and from work, but to go get a little grocery run. I'll throw all the groceries in the saddlebags or in the front bag or in the back bag, and it just absolutely will carry an enormous amount of stuff. And so the Spyder does really, really well in that arena. So if you are worried, do I have room to carry all the stuff I need for work? Well, you can throw that one out the window, because you can carry your business in this one. All right, now we're going to talk about one that I think is somewhat indifferent, you know, and that is fuel economy. Now, my truck gets, I'll say, poor fuel economy. 25 miles to the gallon is a great for me for a tank of gas. But a lot of times it's more that 22, 23. That's normally what I'm running as far as gas is concerned. And so what occurs is this, I get on this, I feel like, man, I'm doing really, really well at 32, 33 miles per gallon in town, and I do that pretty easily. Can I do better if I keep my wrist out of it? I can, but, you know, I want to have a little bit of fun. But fuel economy, I would say, is a plus if you're driving a truck. Now, you see this little Hyundai in front of me. A lot of these little cars like this, those things are getting 35, 40 miles to the gallon in town. My son has a Honda in his Honda, and my daughter also has a little Honda Civic. And those cars just kill in fuel economy. So this will not compare to that. I'm just going to be quite frank with you. But, you know, I don't see it as really a downside, but it's not really an upside either. You're not going to save enormous amounts of cash by driving your Spyder. You're just not going to, because you're not going to get that great of a mileage out of it. If you were getting 40, 45, or even my Tiger in town will do 50 miles to the gallon, I mean, you know, it's just a completely different machine on that. But I wish the Spyder did better, and even in eco mode, I still don't do that great. So there you go. Fuel economy is a hit or a miss depending on what you drive. I'm going to tell you, if you drive a four-wheel drive F-150, it's a big plus. And if you drive a Toyota Prius, it ain't a plus for you. All right, next up, this is a big one, and this is in comparison to other motorcycles. If you ride a motorcycle, one of the big problems that we have is visibility. Will people see me, or are they going to run over me? Like this guy right here, he turned in front of me. He saw me. I could see his face. He saw me. You can't fix a guy being rude or pull it out in front of you or doing that if they're just rude people. But as far as visibility is concerned, the Spyder is highly visible and does very, very well. I see people go to pull out in front of me, and they don't because they see me. I've got other motorcycles, as you know. I've got an old BMW. I get pulled out in front of that thing all the time because it's got all the marking lights and the original lights from 1984. So it's just not a real visible motorcycle. But I've got a newer Speed Triple made by Triumph. I've got a newer SV650 by Suzuki. I've got my Triumph Tiger. And all of those, I'm going to tell you, it's at least a 10-to-1 ratio on how often I get pulled out in front of. It's pretty amazing how often it happens on those. And when you read the stories of people getting T-boned and riders dying on the street, you know, you want something that you can be seen on. So I'm going to say that the Spyder absolutely excels in visibility when you're doing your daily commute. One thing I'll say about all motorcycles, or, you know, whether it's 2 or 3 wheels, one of the things you don't want to do is if you get a big diesel truck, the big 18-wheelers, I think, and now you guys can correct me now, you Brits over there, you'll call them what, lorries or something like that. You don't want to get right in front of one of those guys and like sit right on his bumper, because he might not even see you. He may see over your head, and it doesn't register that there's something down there. So take into consideration the performance of the vehicle. Now, when I come up to a red light, I'll give myself a little room, and I'm looking in my rear view mirror, because if I see a car closing on me, I want to have a path of escape. It does happen. I've had to take it before, where someone's, you know, got their head up their rear end and they forgot to clean their belly button so they could see me. So, you know, you just have to pay attention. Your head needs to be on a swivel. Just because you're highly visible don't mean that some idiot's not going to kill you, because then you'll be highly dead. So keep your head on a swivel. But the Spyder, as far as commuting is concerned, is highly, highly visible. I'm going to tell you another big plus, and you know, you may take it as a plus or your wife may take it as a minus. Here we go. But before we go, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment again, then comment on your comment, move us up in the algorithm. I appreciate it. All right. One of the problems that I have with the Spyder when I ride to work, which, you know, I don't have a job technically, so I guess I'm not riding to work, but when I daily commute doing the things that I do, and trust me, I go to hospitals a lot, way more than you could possibly imagine. I find myself being out in the community. I coach, I do things, and therefore I am in and out of the house a lot. I find myself getting home late. And the reason is, on the way home, even today, it's a gray day, I really don't want to go home. Now, I could come out here and I could hang a left up here at one of the red lights. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go straight, because straight takes me out of town and adds about 15 miles to my trip, and it takes me out on some country roads. And my commute all of a sudden is no longer shorter, it's longer, because, well, I just want to ride. And that's the thing about riding on a motorcycle of any kind. You know, the decompression side of it after work, taking the long way home, as Supertramp would say, is a really, really cool thing. And last but not least is something that I just mentioned in the other one as we're talking about that long ride home, and that is decompression. You know, when I worked, I was a FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. Sounds very important, although it kind of was. I was an air traffic manager. And we dealt with some pretty serious things, and there were days where, you know, people would die. I'm just going to be quite honest with you. You know, you'd have an aircraft incident, and people would die, and it was really sad. And you know, you would be dealing with that. You'd be, you know, doing investigatory things and dealing with the stress associated with it and all of that. You know, you heard someone's last words, and all of a sudden you're kind of freaking out. The one thing that I've always loved about motorcycles is the ability to demand your attention. Motorcycles demand your attention. You have to pay attention to what you're doing, or you'll end up being the dead man, right? But also what it is it's fun. It's pure, unadulterated, simple, clean fun. Riding a motorcycle is fun. So what I would find, especially after days like that, I could get on a motorcycle and I could ride home, and when I got home, I felt better. I had whatever angst was built up in my body, I was able to let it go. You know, one of the things that in society, you know, and I'm not going to get off into a lot of the psychiatry business. I'm just going to say this. I think often we overtalk things, you know. Oh, this happened, that happened. We talk about it. And all you're doing is focusing on your problem. You know, with me, you know, if I need to get it off my chest, I'll get it off my chest. But once it's off my chest, I don't need to place it back up there and start talking about it again and again and again and again. And motorcycles, what they allowed me to do when I was riding home is I could process in my mind what was going on. I was going to change lanes, but I think, is he going to go? Here we go. He's not going to go. But I began to process things in my mind. And as I am a big self-talker, I was able to process things through. And I could determine, I would find, you know, in an investigation, I would discover things on my ride home as I was processing it. I was almost vomiting out all of this data, and all of a sudden, something would pop out in the puke. and it would be a nugget. It would be a nugget of wisdom that I could use when I went back to work the next day. And it didn't give me the attitude that when I got home, all of a sudden I wasn't barfing this all over my wife and children, because they did not deserve that. They deserve much better than that. So the CanAm SPYDER, the Sea to Sky in particular, is a absolutely fine, phenomenal, top dog, top-notch machine for commuting. It's fun, it's safe as being outside can be. It's pretty darn warm, pretty darn dry, plenty of storage, reasonable gas mileage. Man, you can go down the list, and I'm gonna tell you, like the old commercial, it's like pet milk. It make me happy. It'll make you happy. It's really, really a lot of fun. All right. Well, there you have it, another one in the book. So if you're contemplating buying a CanAm SPYDER for your daily commute, well, you got the thumbs up from Coach Bob. But until then, do me a favor, go out, buy the motorcycle of your dreams, eat right, take care of yourself. And remember, if you're not having fun, you are most definitely doing it wrong. Now you go seize the day, and I will see you on the road real soon. Woohoo! Man, I'm glad I didn't turn back there. I got another solid 10 miles at least. Oh yeah. Loving